All right, we have a few questions. Question on the amendment, Representative Landry.
Thank you. And Rep. Emerson, just to clarify, you're carrying this bill for someone else, correct?
I am, for Senator Jackson, yes.
Okay, and were you involved in drafting obviously you know how to answer questions on the amendment, but were you involved in the drafting of it?
I was not involved in the actual drafting, but I was involved in a meeting discussing them.
Okay, I heard about that meeting. Were there any other legislators in it besides you and the author of the bill?
Me, the author of the bill, and there were a couple of other legislators there on another bill.
Okay, and my understanding also is that these meetings were essentially run by Right to Life. Is that correct?
I would say they were also run by the author of the bill, who was certainly concerned about the amendments going on her bill on the House floor.
I had commentary that said that they were running the show, but that's probably a difference of opinion. So my first question is, I understand that this is supposed to be sort of a cleanup, if you will, of the 49 years of abortion laws. Is that kind of a brief summary of what is trying to happen here?
I would say the amendments, that is certainly part of it. Like I said, there's been 49 years, as you know, of lots of definitions regarding abortion in the state of Louisiana. So I do think that now is probably an opportune time to try to streamline those, yes. And that is a lot of what this amendment does.
Did you know that I had a resolution in ACJ a week or so ago that touched on the very problem of 49 years of law and attempted to have a study group put in place, and our colleagues said that it wasn't necessary because the law was clear?
You mentioned that to me, yes.
Okay, yeah. I'm just kind of wondering why that it was clear last week and not now. And some of this is confusing to me because to me it seems like this is supposed to be a clarification. But for example, on the first page down around 26 and maybe 30 or so, I mean, for example, it says any laws regulating abortion shall not be considered to be in conflict with other laws. Isn't it up to a judge to determine if laws conflict with each other?
I would say that obviously, I'm obviously not a judge and I'm not an attorney, but I certainly would say that they do have a large hand in that. I think that we can do a lot of things here to try to make sure that our laws don't conflict, but I guess the final judgment would be there. I think that language is just trying to clarify that what we're doing here, because as we both know, there is a potential outcome very soon that could make this bill active, and so I think here we're just trying to be very clear with our intent.
And also, just to be clear for anyone watching, the 49 years of laws, which are more than any other state, that our staff attempted to synthesize this in a matter of days. Is that a correct interpretation?
I get where you're going with that, but I don't think that's a directly correct interpretation because I think they've been working on this all session. I just think that as it went through the process, they kept collecting more information and trying to get it in the proper posture. So I don't think a few days is accurate, but I do think, throughout this session, yes.
Yeah, because the original bill was 7 pages and the amendment alone is 15. I mean, I guess I should, did you know I've worked in this arena for a long time, and it's everyone's opinion that Louisiana's laws are extremely confusing and not simple on this issue. And I just want to draw your attention to another part, page 10, around line 21. It says the provisions of this chapter shall not be construed to repeal any other provision. Well, what happens if those other laws, as I said, conflict with this new one? How will that be decided? If it says very clearly, this new chapter shall not repeal any other law, how do you know how that might work?
So I think in our attempt here with this amendment, obviously when Senator Jackson dropped this bill, I think the circumstances were a little bit different. Again, as you and I both know, there's There's been a lot of talk about a potential overturn depending on the outcome of the Dobbs case. And so I think here what we're really trying to do is make sure that Louisiana is prepared. And look, Representative Landry, I do know that you have worked a lot in this field. And obviously you and I don't agree on this issue, but I have appreciated the things that you've brought to my attention. And I can tell you that we will, and I'm not just saying this for lip service, we will continue to work over the next few days. If this bill comes off of here, depending on what the Senate does, if it goes to conference, we're going to continue to work on the language to make it better.
Okay. So in order for other people to have questions, I have a few other things I just want to grab. So in 4 different places, sorry, I have a lot of notes here. One, for example, page 4 around line 18, and then page 5 around line 22. We have 4 different instances where this proposed law says that although a physical issue or a physical emergency with a woman who's pregnant may qualify her for an abortion, it specifically excludes mental issues. And I'm wondering why that was included, because we've done so much work in this chamber and stress the importance of mental health issues. Why are we excluding mental health issues from the exceptions for a medically necessary abortion?
Representative Landry, you'd have to, can you say again exactly
What
what
pages?
line you were
Yeah.
talking about?
So
Page 4,
one is page 4, section 18,
section 18, okay.
and
Sorry, I
then
thought you said
page
line
5
18.
around line 22.
Okay. Oh, I see what you're saying.
Not including any
including
emotional, correct.
psychological, or mental condition. And look, I understand that question. I think that obviously we're sticking to physical condition on this. I do think that saving the physical life of the mother here was the intention of the exception.
Was this
And-
discussed specifically? Sorry to
No,
interrupt you.
I don't remember discussing this specifically. I'm going to be really honest with you on that. But that's kind of my interpretation here is, the author's intent is to stick to physical condition as far as to save the life
I mean,
of the mother.
as we know, there's a lot of serious mental health conditions that afflict people in Louisiana. So I am concerned about that. And 3 sections, so if you're on page 5, around 23, 24, so the language says, no condition may determine to exist if it's based on a claim that the woman will engage in conduct which she intends to result in her death. So this basically says, if a pregnant woman says, I am going to kill myself because of whatever's going on in her life, she still can't get an exception to this law. Is that your understanding of what it says here?
That's my understanding of that, yes.
Was that discussed at all in your meetings?
Not at length, but, Representative Landry, I think that, I do think this will be a continual discussion, but I do think that, there can be so many different definitions of what that would mean that you'd really have to be very concise about what that would
it says no condition will be determined if there's a claim that she will engage in conduct which she intends to result in her death. I mean, I think it's pretty clear they're saying the threat of suicide is not enough, and I find that extremely troubling in this alleged pro-life state. But moving on to the next question, this is actually more procedural. So also on page 5, around line 10, it says, pregnant means the female reproductive condition of having an embryo or fetus which commences at fertilization and implementation. Those are 2 different things. This is clearly something that might have to be corrected. Do you agree?
Were you talking about the definition of pregnancy? Is that what you were talking
Yeah,
about?
it says it commences at fertilization and implementation. So fertilization occurs generally in the fallopian tubes, and then several days later, implementation implantation is in the uterus. So for it to say pregnant is fertilization means fertilization and implementation, it doesn't seem like those two. This doesn't make sense, I guess is what I'm saying. Do you agree with that or not?
I don't. I think it does make sense. As you know, we've had a lot of discussions about IVF. We've had a lot of discussions about contraception. I think that was intentional language.
Well, medically, they're two different things, so I guess we'll disagree on that. Sorry, backtracking. I'm almost done. Page 3, around line 31, it talks about a bona fide medical reason about standard of care and whatnot. I mean, is bona fide medical reason supposed to be a legal term? I'm not familiar with it if it is.
I could be incorrect about this, but I think that might be already in law.
Okay, I poked around. Maybe I missed it, but that's something we can talk about after.
I'll definitely follow up with you on that, though.
Okay, thanks. Let's see. Sorry about this. I was confused, very confused about this language that it starts on page 12 under around line 50, the purpose, and goes onto the next page. And so it says the purpose of this part, et cetera, et cetera. The rules shall be reasonably related to the purpose and shall not impose a legally significant burden on a woman's freedom to decide whether to terminate her pregnancy. I'm just actually a little befuddled why this section is in here. Was it left over from elsewhere?
That's already in law. So since it's not underlined, that's something that's already in law right there.
But wouldn't any clinic be closed if this law goes into place?
Yes.
Or if Roe is overturned?
Yes.
Okay, so that just might be a mistake. And sorry, this is the last one. Page 10. This is actually a more substantive question. So page 10, this first section A, it looks like it's a revision of 1061.8, which we already have in law. And it states that it's public policy that every unborn child is a human from the moment of conception and is therefore, quote, a legal person for purposes of the laws of this state.
You're on page 10, you said?
Yeah, page 10, section A1, around line 10 or so.
Gotcha. And your question, are you asking about what's the language that they struck out?
No, so if someone is or if we're saying a legal person begins at conception, I mean, does that mean child support begins at conception?
I don't think this bill addresses that, but that may be something that you want to address later.
That would be a potential consequence. I mean, what about if at conception that is a person, wouldn't that trigger inheritance laws and a whole slew of criminal laws?
What you're talking about right now, the legal person statute here, it's, again, that was already taken from current law. I mean...
I think it's in current law that's sort of under the trigger ban
language, yeah.
statutes, but, pointing out to everyone in the room and everyone watching, if we're saying a legal person is from the moment of conception, we'll have issues, child support, like I said, inheritance, criminal statutes coming into play. What if there's life insurance put on? I'm just wondering if any of those potential effects came up in any discussions.
No, and I don't think that's potential effects at this point.
I mean, if Roe's overturned and Louisiana says that a legal personhood begins at conception, we're going to be facing this on day one, or you don't think so?
I don't think so per se. I think that this bill strictly deals with the regulation of abortion. I think any potential outcomes that we need to deal with as a legislature in the event that it is overturned, I think we'll certainly deal with.
I mean, I agree that 90% of it is about abortion, but that 10% creates legal personhood at conception, which is a huge, it's going to be a complex problem that we're going to face if Roe is overturned. I think,
Well, we do face a lot of complex problems here.
well, yeah, well, we won't be in session is the thing. So a lot is going to happen most likely this summer. I think that's all my questions. I appreciate you answering them, and I'm going to have a few amendments as well.
Okay, thank you.
Representative Jenkins for a question.
Representative Landry on your amendment.
So this amendment adds a little bit of language to it's page 3, around line 21. Let's see. Sorry, it's page 3, line 21 of the bill, not the amendment that was adopted. I'm sorry about that. So it says that the section doesn't apply to a pregnant female upon whom an abortion is committed or performed in violation. But as some of y'all know from ACJ, there's concern that there's going to be arrest and criminal charges brought against people who self-manage their own abortion or who suffer from a miscarriage, which looks the same as an abortion if you go to an emergency room. So what I was hoping we could do is clarify that the pregnant woman, no matter if she gets an illegal abortion, if she tries to hurt herself, if she has a miscarriage, she will not be guilty of any criminal penalties under this act. It does not provide her the right to seek any of that, but it clarifies what's already in here, which says that she cannot face criminal penalties for receiving an abortion, but it also says if she tries to hurt herself or if she has a miscarriage, she won't be arrested. To me, this is needed given what's about to happen and the confusion of this long amendment and bill, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
There are no questions on the amendment. Is there an objection to the adoption of the amendment? There is an objection. Representative Emerson, on your objection.
Members and Representative Landry, I do appreciate the clarification. I'm going to object for this reason. Representative Landry and I went back and forth on this. I feel like the bill covers what she's trying to do. I understand her clarifications. I just spoke with Senator Jackson. She would like for this amendment to be rejected. Again, she also feels like it's covered in this bill, specifically in the section, and I think Representative Landry read it. But it says this section does not apply to a pregnant female upon whom an abortion is committed or performed in violation of this section, and the pregnant female shall not be held responsible for the criminal consequences of any violation of this section. So any violation covers everything that she's trying to do here, in my opinion. I do think that I know that Representative Landry is very passionate about this, and I absolutely respect that, and I agree. And I don't mind having this conversation further with her, but I'm going to reject this amendment at this time, again, because Senator Jackson does not want this amendment and believes it's already covered in the bill.
Representative Landry, to close on your amendment.
However anyone feels about it, we all know that it's the actual written law that a judge or a prosecutor is going to interpret later. So it's not just me saying this, as I've discussed with some of y'all. It's all 50 states that lawyers are worried that this is what's going to happen, that not to get into other areas, but homicide statutes are going to be triggered. We have seen, as I keep saying, in other states where abortion laws have been heavily restricted, such as Texas, women are starting to be arrested when they go to the emergency room. I don't think that this offers up any new exceptions or any preferences. It's clarifying that we are never going to punish a pregnant woman for whatever is happening to her. How someone feels about it is not quite the same as what's written down, and I think we need to clarify that before the Supreme Court issues their decision. Thank you.
All right. Representative Landry, would you want to take a question on close?
Sure.
Representative Phelps for a question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Actually, for Representative Emerson on the objection to the amendment, if that's possible.
I'm on close.
Oh, thank you.
Okay.
I waive.
All right. There are no more questions. Any objection to the adoption of the amendment? Oh, you done? All right, my bad. All right, so Representative Landry offers up an amendment which Representative Emerson objects to. All those in favor of the amendment vote yea. All those opposed vote nay. The clerk will open machines. Members, vote your machines. Boye, no. Landry, yes. Emerson, no. Eccles, no. Desitel, no. Amy Freeman, yes. You through voting? Through voting? All right, close them up. 68 yeas, 30 nays, and 30 yeas, 68 nays, and the amendment fails to pass. Next amendment.
Representative Landry offers up one-page set of amendments, 5369.
Representative Landry.
So, as I brought up earlier in my questions, there's 4 sections in the amendment that was adopted that excludes mental health issues as a medical reason for needing an abortion. It's troubling for a lot of reasons. Number one, we talk at length here, like I said, about mental health issues and how serious they are and how serious they can become. So just as a body to exclude mental health issues from this bill is just completely hypocritical to me. But beyond that, we know that people have serious mental health issues before they get pregnant. They may have them after. There may be disabilities. We don't really know. I don't know why this is excluded. It bothers me to my core. But what really bothers me the most out of all the pages of this bill is that this bill says that if some woman says that she is going to kill herself for whatever reason, pregnancy or not, that's not enough of a reason to grant her exception. I can't even believe someone wrote this into law. I don't know who did this, but it is so offensive to people who have mental health issues and to someone who would go so far as to tell her doctor or her mother or her father that I'm going to commit suicide, that can't even be considered an exception. So what we did is we went through with the 4 areas that have that exclude mental health issues and exclude suicide and just remove them from the bill. That's all it does.
All right. Question, Representative Phelps.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Rep Landry, does your amendment, is this covering one who, as you stated, may have mental issues during the pregnancy? And does this also cover an already mentally challenged female?
Yeah, I think it has, well, it just removes it. It has mental, I think psychological, emotional, I think what it is. And you're correct, as we discussed, someone could have a disability prior to. We know that people who are disabled are often preyed upon by people who work with them, by other people in their home. So it would, to me, it would apply to someone who had a mental issue before pregnancy or doing.
And after. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. There are no more questions. Any objection to the adoption of the amendment? Representative Emerson, on your objection.
Members, I'm going to object to this amendment because the definition here is very broad as far as emotional and mental health. And I would, obviously, I agree with Representative Landry. We are in a mental health crisis, and I would much prefer us to help them from a mental health standpoint than making the decision here to terminate a pregnancy.
All right, Representative Landry, close.
The bill doesn't actually define mental health in any aspect. It just excludes it. But it does actually talk about a woman who says that she's going to end her life, and that does not qualify as an exception. I'm so ashamed that that's in here. I don't know who put it in here. But because of that language, I think we need to strip it just for our own sanity and for the people who are going to face this.
All right. Representative Landry offers up an amendment which Representative Emerson objects to. All those in favor of the amendment vote yea. All those opposed vote nay. The clerk will open machines. Members, vote your machines. DeVille, yea, no. Landry, yes. Emerson, no. Boye, no. Desitel, no. Francis, no. Thompson, no. Eccles, no. Through voting, members? You through voting? All right, close them up. 32 yeas, 68 nays, and the amendments failed to be adopted. Next amendment.
Mr. Speaker and members, Representative Duplessis is going to withdraw set number 5379. So the next set of amendments is a set offered by Representative Ivy, set number 5383.
Bill for.
Were you asking a question?
No, that's it. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you for answering my question.
Representative Landry with a question.
Yeah, I mean, my first question when I read this is, how can the state of Louisiana regulate interstate commerce?
Well, they can regulate in terms, and so, again, this author vetted this bill with local DAs, with the AG's office, and LDH, and they actually had no concerns with it. So I can only speak to what I've been informed, because obviously this is not my bill. But my understanding is they can regulate, obviously, if something is coming into our state.
I don't think that's accurate, but okay. I mean, I don't know how they can stop it unless they're waiting at the post office. But anyway, about 40% of abortions occur due to taking 2 pills. So it's not a surgical procedure. It's very simple, taking 2 pills. Don't you think this is something that we should encourage since it's so much safer than a surgical abortion?
Well, I'm pro-life, so I don't encourage abortion or the killing of life. But in terms of these medications, actually the FDA has this in their REMS, which is their risk evaluation, mitigation strategies. So there's only one, this is one of 62 that they actually have requirements around to mitigate the risk versus the benefits. So yeah, no, I don't think it's just as simple as like, yeah, take these 2 pills and,
It is that simple. But my question was more that, the pills are much safer than a surgical abortion. Anyway, and I guess this is did you know that complications for abortion pills, it's about 0.4% of people who take them, but liposuction has complications in 5% of patients, and pregnancy has complications to some degree in 8% of patients. So I'm just wondering why we feel the need to have stronger regulations on something that has a complication rate of 0.5%.
Okay, the only regulations that are put onto this is that it's done under medical supervision. I'm thinking all the ones that you named, liposuction, that's done under medical supervision. I don't think anyone's at home doing their own liposuction. So this is requiring medical supervision, because even on Planned Parenthood's website, you can look at all the risks that they do have on this medication. And so we heard testimony where women that were getting it through the mail weren't stopped bleeding after 2 weeks, and then we're having to go to the emergency room. And so
there are risks with all of what you're talking about.
I agree.
With Advil, with birth control.
Advil is not under REMS. This is one of 62 drugs that the FDA actually has mitigation strategies around. Advil doesn't fit into that.
Well, this is political, but regardless, the abortion pill also has, and I say pill, it's pills, a success rate of 95%. I mean, I'm just coming back to the same point. This is safe. Of course there are complications, but this is much safer than so many medical procedures or medicines out there, and it seems like we're targeting it for political reasons. Is there any other reason we would be targeting this other than political reasons?
Again, for the safety of women, this is already in law. Our state, along with 26 other states, have these exact same requirements. This is not like we're creating something new.
If it's already in law, then what are we passing?
Because we're passing to be able to bring these entities in so they'll be able to enforce the law.
So am I correct in my understanding that what we're passing is Louisiana's attempt to regulate interstate commerce on this particular issue?
What we're doing here is to be able to enforce the law that we have around if you sell, dispense, or administer these types of medications without medical oversight.
So if it's the law, we're attempting to regulate that commerce. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, question on the bill, Representative McCormick.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I'll be quick on this since I know what's going to happen. But we've been talking a lot about how there's 49 years of abortion laws in our state, and guess what? They haven't helped women at all. We're still at the bottom of every list: maternal morbidity, maternal health, infant health, economics, you name it. This has not helped anyone, and I think something that a lot of people don't realize is that over half of women who have an abortion have a child already, and they know better than anyone how hard it is to raise a child. So we're not just hurting women in this state, we're hurting mothers. What I want to talk a little bit about too is how the anti-abortion movement is new in the country, and I don't know if a lot of y'all knew that. Prior to, say, the 80s, it was really just a Catholic issue. Catholics don't like birth control, they don't like abortion, they have a lot of rules on things. But you actually had, for example, Ronald Reagan in 1967, he expanded abortion protections in California. And then when he ran for president in 1980, when the issue had become politicized, he changed his view. And I wanted to bring that up to let y'all know that this has made political pawns of women's bodies. That's what we're doing here. Every layer of politics in this state is using women as a shield for their politics. And I want to just briefly talk about how so many of you, like me, are Catholic, and a lot of people use that as their reason. And I know y'all can't believe this, but I've told some of y'all, I went to Catholic school in elementary school, I went to Catholic school in high school, I went to Catholic school in undergrad, and I went to Catholic school in law school. I am as Catholic as all of you, and I learned so much about social justice from those schools and about helping people, and it's why I'm a lawyer, and it's why I'm here today. But so much that happens with our church is, to me, a Catholic injustice, and it's what led me to become what I call a recovering Catholic as I'm older. We've talked at length about child abuse. The Catholic Church is responsible for the rape of children for decades and decades. The Catholic Church is responsible for millions of deaths of people in Africa because they refuse to let them use condoms. Catholic Church doesn't like birth control. Guess who uses birth control? Catholic women at the same rate as everyone else. Catholic Church doesn't like abortion. Catholic women have abortions at the same rate as everyone else. Last week, or the week before, I forget which week it was, we were arguing another bill. IVF came up. Many of you and many of my friends only have children because of IVF. And you have a church here telling you that your child was born in sin. That's wrong. And they're wrong on this. They're wrong on a lot of things. We don't have to follow all the dogma of our respective religions in this building. We're not here in a church. We're here in a state building, but because this issue has come up with regard to our religion so many times, I think it's important to point out that this religion, a lot of people that I include myself in, is not inconsistent, is harmful to people, and in this instance, is harmful to women. I'm probably one of 5 people who's gonna speak like this, but I think y'all need to know it's important. Love you, Denise. It's important for women to have a different voice up here. I mean, we only have 22 of us here. There is hardly anyone who's ever been here to advocate for people who have abortions, who don't regret their abortions, who want to terminate a pregnancy. And, every time this comes up, we are again using the bodies of women for votes as political pawns. And I think women in this state deserve a lot better than that. They deserve our respect. They deserve dignity. They don't deserve to be just treated like another plank every time there's an election. In closing, something else y'all might not know is 1 of 4 women in this country have had an abortion. So that means 1 of 4 in here, 1 of 4 of your friends, 1 in 4 of your wives. I certainly, now that I'm older, have had a lot of women admit to me what happened in their 20s. These are people you know. This is not some some alien form or someone you're never going to meet. These are people you know who you're hurting. And I know what's going to happen today, and I know what's always going to happen here. But I just wish for once we would think about what we're doing, how we keep hurting the same people, and we're hurting people we already know. If anyone wants to talk to me about any of this, I am happy to talk to you about it. I could talk about reproductive issues all night long, but I just wish I would think a little bit about who you're hurting in this, and it's your friends and family, including some people in this room. Thank you.
All right, Representative Willard, you had a question?
Thank you, Rep Landry. In your opening, you talked about some of the outcomes, the health outcomes that we have for women in this state. Did you know that Louisiana has the highest maternal mortality rate in the nation?
Yep, it's something I've tried to work on here.
Me too. Did you know that Louisiana has the second highest infant mortality rate in the nation?
Truly embarrassing.
Do you think that the passage of this bill is going to discourage women experiencing pregnancy complications from visiting with their doctor or a hospital?
Yes, I mean, they're scared already, and they're going to be more scared, like we said, of arrest. They're going to be more scared to tell their doctors what's really going on in their lives. I mean, we just rejected a rape and incest protection, and we're going to have children and young teens afraid to tell someone what's happening to them.
Thank you for answering my questions.
You're welcome.
All right. Representative Marcel, who is your question for? All right, Representative Landry.
Well, thank you, Representative Landry, for going to the floor on this issue. I certainly understand your passion and your support for it, but I do have a question. Do you believe that women in Louisiana, if they were raped or incest, can then go to another state and have an abortion? And if so, do you think that we maybe should put an amendment on here to say that those people should go to jail as well?
I think that's where we're heading. I haven't seen it yet in our state. I know I've seen it in some other states that I don't know how that could work legally, but I think that it's coming, that certain states are going to try to stop women from traveling to another state. It hasn't happened yet, but I think it's coming.
I think so too. I believe that we're traveling down a slippery slope when we do these things with unintentional consequences, particularly when we talk about rape and incest. I don't believe anybody in this body who has voted against the rape and incest would allow that to happen to their daughter and not take them somewhere else. That was my point. Yep. They may be illegal here, but I think that if that happens to someone's daughter in this body, they will make sure that they get what they need to stop that baby from being born from incest or from rape. And did you know, I support you going to the floor on this issue and standing tall for some of us that believe that women should have the right to make choices about their own bodies. Did you know?
I appreciate you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. To the floor, Representative Seaball.
Call the question.
All right, Representative Jenkins, why do you rise?
Point of order, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to make a motion that this bill be recommitted to civil law with the amendment said 5289. It's an omnibus bill, without a doubt. It's touching upon civil law, the civil code, and matters affecting persons. That's squarely within the jurisdiction of the Civil Law Committee.
Representative Stefanski, why do you rise?
Mr. Speaker, point of order, is that motion is not appropriate from the floor, right? Doesn't it have to be at the well?
Yes. All right, two things. One, it had to be made from the floor, and two, it's out of order because previous question is the high of order of it.